Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are going to take a deep dive into the world of work. The workplace.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be super useful for all of us because honestly, who doesn't want to not just survive, but thrive in their work environment?
It is interesting because the workplace is not static. It's always changing and evolving. And what's fascinating to me is that to really do well at work, you don't just need to know how to, do the job, but you also need to understand how work gets done in different environments. Like the soft skills are as important as the hard skills.
Okay, so it's not enough to just be good at what you do on paper.
Yeah.
You need to understand the nuances of how work actually happens in the real world in all these different unique workplaces.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Every single workplace has its own structure, its own culture, almost like an unwritten rule book. And learning to decode that rule book can really be the difference between feeling lost at sea and sailing smoothly towards your goals.
So how do we crack the code?
Right.
Where do we even begin to figure this out?
Well, you've got to understand the lay of the land first. So you know who are the key players, what are the reporting structures, both formal and informal. Is the decision-making process, centralized, or is it more distributed? These are all really important questions to ask.
Right. So it's not just about understanding the official hierarchy. It's also about those unspoken power dynamics.
Yeah.
Like who really holds the influence in certain situations, even if they don't have the fanciest title.
Exactly. It's about reading between the lines, picking up on those subtle cues, and really understanding how influence and authority actually work in a specific environment. But it's not just about individuals. Workplace success rarely happens in a vacuum. It's about teamwork.
Oh, so true. We've all been on those dream teams where everyone just clicks, and then there are those other teams that, well, let's just say, could use some work. What makes the difference in your opinion?
I think effective teams are really built on individuals who can adapt to diverse working styles and who understand their roles and responsibilities, but who can also seamlessly, switch between leading and supporting as needed.
So self-awareness is key here, right? Knowing your own strengths and weaknesses, and then figuring out how those fit into the larger team dynamic.
Absolutely. And speaking of dynamics, let's not forget about workplace culture, which can be a little more elusive.
Ah, yes. Culture, that mysterious force that can make or break your entire work experience. It's like the personality of a company, right?
I love that analogy. And, just like with people, some personalities just clash. So joining a company where the culture actually aligns with your own personal values and your work style can have a huge impact on how much you enjoy your job.
Oh, I can definitely see how that's important.
Hmm.
I mean, imagine someone who thrives in a really fast-paced, results-driven environment, suddenly finding themselves in a company with a more laid-back, process-oriented culture.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that leading to a lot of internal friction.
Exactly. And it's not just about being happy, it's about being productive too. When your values clash with the company culture, it can lead to frustration, disengagement, and ultimately impact your performance.
So before accepting that shiny new job offer, it's worth doing some digging into the company's culture beyond just what they say on their website.
Absolutely. Look for clues in the interview process.
Yeah.
Pay attention to how people interact, what the office environment feels like, the language they use, and don't be afraid to ask direct questions about the company culture. It shows you're thoughtful and that you're looking for the right fit.
It's like dating. You wouldn't commit to a long-term relationship without understanding the other person's values and lifestyle, right?
Precisely.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about communication, which is arguably the most important skill you can have in any workplace.
I completely agree. It's like the oil that keeps the engine running smoothly or the glue that holds everything together. Pick your metaphor, but it's essential.
And it's not just about, speaking eloquently or writing perfectly polished emails. It's about understanding how communication actually works in different contexts.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some of these nuances we should be aware of when it comes to communication at work? Well, it all starts with active listening, and I don't just mean nodding your head and saying, while you're thinking about your grocery list.
So, ouch, guilty as charged sometimes.
Oh.
But you're right. Active listening is about so much more than just hearing the words. It's about actually understanding the message behind them.
Exactly. It's about paying attention to both verbal and nonverbal cues, asking clarifying questions, reflecting back what you've heard to make sure you're on the same page.
It's about showing the speaker that you're really present and engaged, which builds trust and encourages open communication. So how do we move from passive hearing to active listening? Any tips?
One really effective technique is to simply summarize what you've heard and then ask, did I understand that correctly? This not only clarifies the message, but it also shows the speaker that you're making a real effort to understand their perspective.
That's a great tip. It takes the pressure off the speaker to constantly repeat themselves, and it makes sure that the message is being received accurately. But communication is a two-way street, right? We also need to make sure that we're communicating effectively when we're the ones speaking.
Absolutely. And I think in professional settings, clarity and conciseness are key. People are busy. Nobody wants to wade through a wall of text to try and decipher your message.
To ditch the jargon and the flowery language and just get straight to the point.
Precisely. Think of it like this. Every communication should have a clear objective. So ask yourself, what do I want the recipient to know or understand or do after receiving this message?
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's about being intentional with our communication and making sure that it serves a purpose.
Exactly. And remember, communication isn't just about the words that we use. It's also about how we say them.
You're talking about nonverbal communication,
Yeah.
right? Like body language, tone of voice, all those subtle cues that can sometimes speak volumes.
Precisely. Even if you're saying all the right words, if your body language is screaming disinterest, or if your tone is aggressive, your message is going to get lost in translation.
It's like that saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
So we need to be mindful of our posture, our facial expressions, even the tone of our emails.
Absolutely. Maintaining eye contact, using open and inviting body language, and speaking with a confident and respectful tone can make a huge difference in how your message is received.
It's almost like having a superpower. You know, the ability to influence and connect with people simply through the way you communicate.
Now you're getting it. And this brings us to those inevitable, difficult conversations. We've all been there, right?
Oh, yes. Those moments we'd rather avoid, like giving critical feedback or addressing a conflict or having to say no to a request.
But here's the thing, those conversations are unavoidable in any workplace. The key is to approach them with the right mindset and the right tools.
Okay, I'm all ears. How do we turn those dreaded conversations into something productive?
First, choose the right time and place. Having a sensitive conversation out in the open or when emotions are running high is just a recipe for disaster. Find a private space where you can speak openly and honestly without distractions or interruptions.
That makes sense. It creates a safe space for both parties to express themselves without feeling judged or pressured. So what's next? How do we actually have these difficult conversations?
Go into the conversation with a clear goal in mind. So you know, what do you hope to achieve? What outcome are you looking for? Having a clear purpose will help you stay focused and avoid getting sidetracked by emotions.
So it's not about venting or winning an argument. It's about finding a resolution that actually addresses the issue at hand.
Precisely. And maybe even more importantly, approach the conversation with empathy. Try to understand the other person's perspective, even if you don't agree with it.
It's about putting yourself in their shoes and seeing the situation from their point of view, which can be tough when you're feeling frustrated or hurt, but it's so essential for finding common ground.
Exactly. Listen actively, ask clarifying questions, acknowledge their feelings. This shows that you respect them as a person, even if you're disagreeing with them.
It's about separating the person from the issue. You can disagree with someone's actions or decisions without attacking their character.
And when it's your turn to speak, use I statements to express your own thoughts and feelings. Instead of saying, you always do this, try saying, I feel frustrated when this happens.
That's a great tip. It takes the blame out of the equation and focuses on the impact of the behavior. So it's not about pointing fingers, it's about expressing how the situation is affecting you personally.
Exactly. And finally, remember that the goal is to find a solution, not to win an argument. Be willing to compromise, be willing to find common ground, and to work together towards a resolution that benefits both parties.
It's about collaboration, not competition.
Precisely. And if the conversation starts to get a little heated, don't be afraid to take a break. Sometimes stepping away for a few minutes to calm down and collect your thoughts can help prevent the situation from escalating.
So it's okay to call a timeout if things are getting too intense. It's better to pause and regroup than to say something you'll regret later.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between assertiveness and understanding, and remembering that even difficult conversations can be opportunities for growth and strengthened relationships.
That's such an important point. While they might not be fun, difficult conversations can actually help us build stronger bonds if they're handled with empathy and a focus on solutions.
Now, while not all interactions will be challenging, it's really important to cultivate a supportive network within your workplace. Let's talk about building your workplace tribe, those authentic connections that make work more enjoyable and more productive. Think about it. You spend so much of your life at work. It should be a place where you feel supported and connected, not just, a place you go to punch in and punch out.
Totally. It's about creating a sense of community, a sense of belonging, right? But how do we actually go about building those kinds of meaningful connections in a professional setting? It's not always easy.
Well, I think it starts with recognizing the human element. Everyone you work with, from the CEO all the way to the intern, they all have their own stories, their own experiences, their own perspectives. And it's so important to treat everyone with respect, regardless of their position or title.
So it's about seeing beyond the job titles and recognizing the individual behind the role.
Precisely. And it's about taking the time to actually get to know people beyond just their work responsibilities. What are they interested in? What are they passionate about? What are their goals and aspirations?
It's those shared interests and connections that often spark those genuine relationships that go beyond just, being coworkers.
Exactly. And, don't underestimate the power of small gestures either. A simple good morning, a genuine compliment offering to help with a task can go a long way in building rapport.
It's about creating that positive and supportive atmosphere where people feel comfortable being themselves.
And when it comes to building trust, which is really the foundation of any strong relationship, consistency is key. Be reliable. Keep your promises, follow through on your commitments.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk, right? Being the colleague that people can depend on.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable, to share your own thoughts and feelings appropriately, of course.
So you're saying that opening up even a little can actually create a deeper sense of connection.
Exactly. Vulnerability creates a sense of shared humanity. It allows for a deeper level of connection. Of course, not every relationship in the workplace is going to blossom into a best friendship.
That's true. You don't need to be best friends with everyone, but maintaining a professional and respectful relationship is crucial for creating a positive work environment.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between being friendly and approachable, but still maintaining appropriate boundaries.
So how do we navigate those tricky situations where, we might not personally click with a colleague? How do we deal with those personality clashes?
Well, even in those challenging situations, disagreements, treating people with respect should always be the guiding principle. Focus on the issue at hand, not attacking the person you know.
It's about separating the behavior from the individual. You can address a problem without resorting to personal attacks.
And this leads us to another really important aspect of workplace relationships: networking.
Ah, yes, networking. That word can sometimes evoke images of, awkward cocktail parties and forced conversations.
True networking sometimes gets a bad rap, but true networking is about building genuine connections with people who share your interests, your goals, or maybe even your industry. It's about creating a network of support, a group of people you can learn from and collaborate with and turn to for advice.
So it's not about collecting business cards or trying to, sell yourself. It's about building authentic relationships that can benefit both parties.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be this formal, intimidating process either. It can happen organically through shared projects or industry events or even online communities.
It's about being open to connecting with people in a genuine way, regardless of the setting.
The key is to be authentic, to be genuinely interested in learning about other people, and to be willing to share your own expertise and experiences.
It's a two-way street. You're not just taking, you're giving back as well.
Precisely, be willing to help others, to make introductions, to share resources. That's how you build a strong and supportive network that can really benefit you throughout your career. And within that network, the concept of mentorship can be incredibly powerful.
Mentorship is something I've always believed in. Having someone who can offer guidance and advice and support can be such a game changer, especially early in your career.
Absolutely. A mentor can really help you navigate the challenges of the workplace, help you identify growth opportunities and develop your skills. But here's the thing, mentorship, it's not a one-way street. It's a mutually beneficial relationship where both parties can learn and grow.
That's a great point. It's not just about the mentee receiving wisdom. It's about both individuals sharing their perspectives and experiences.
As a mentee, you bring fresh perspectives and ideas to the table. And as a mentor, you have the opportunity to share your experience and your knowledge and your wisdom.
It's a beautiful cycle of learning and growth.
Precisely so. Whether you're seeking a mentor or offering mentorship to someone else, embrace that opportunity for growth and connection. It's an investment that can pay dividends for both parties throughout their careers.
Now, let's be real. Not every workplace interaction is going to be sunshine and rainbows. How do we deal with those challenging personalities that we inevitably encounter, in any office? How do we deal with the office drama?
Yes, the office drama. It's a reality of any work environment. The key is to remember that you can't control other people's behavior, but you can control your own reactions.
So instead of getting sucked into the negativity, focus on maintaining your own professionalism and your own boundaries.
Exactly. Set boundaries, avoid gossiping, and, focus on your own work. And if someone's behavior is directly impacting your ability to do your job, address it directly and assertively, but always with respect and with a focus on finding a solution.
It's about having those difficult conversations that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But, doing it in a way that is calm and clear and solution-oriented.
Precisely. Sometimes simply having an open and honest conversation can really clear the air. And if the situation is truly toxic or unbearable, don't be afraid to seek support from HR or a trusted colleague.
It's important to protect your own well-being and to remember that you deserve to work in an environment that is respectful and supportive. Now, speaking of creating a positive work experience, let's talk about taming the time monster. That ever-growing to-do list that seems to haunt us all.
Oh, time management. It's a skill that I think everyone can benefit from, regardless of their role or industry.
Oh, I think we can all relate to that feeling of being overwhelmed by deadlines and emails and meetings. How do we regain control of our workday and create more space for focus and productivity? Where do we even begin?
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that time is a finite resource, right? We all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's about making conscious choices about how we spend that time. And I think the first step in effective time management is prioritization.
It really is amazing how much we've covered today, from, those hidden dynamics of workplace culture to the power of those seemingly small gestures in building those strong relationships.
Yeah, it's the seemingly small things that can often make the biggest difference when you're trying to create a positive and productive work environment.
I think what really resonated with me is this whole idea that work-life balance isn't some fixed destination. It's more like an ongoing journey, this constant dance between our professional and personal life.
It is. It's about finding that rhythm that works for you, recognizing that, it'll ebb and flow as your circumstances change.
And it takes conscious effort. Setting those boundaries, prioritizing self-care, and remembering that disconnecting from work is not a sign of weakness. It's actually a way to recharge and show up as our best selves.
Right. Disconnecting allows us to come back to work with renewed energy and focus, which ultimately makes us much more effective in our roles.
It's like hitting the reset button for our minds and bodies.
Yes.
We've also talked a lot about taking ownership of our career growth. Moving from a passive mindset to an active one where we're actually in the driver's seat of our own career journey.
It's about recognizing that, our careers aren't just solely determined by external factors, but also by the choices we make, the actions we take, and the mindset we cultivate.
So instead of waiting for opportunities to just kind of fall into our laps, we need to be out there actively seeking them out, developing our skills, expanding our network, and really advocating for ourselves.
It's about becoming the architects of our own careers, shaping them in a way that aligns with, our passions, our values, and our aspirations.
And along that journey, remembering that feedback, both positive and constructive, is a gift. It's a valuable tool for growth and development.
It is. It's about being open to learning, even from those challenging moments, and using that feedback to, refine our skills and our approach.
This deep dive has been so insightful and empowering. As we wrap up, what's that one key takeaway that you want our listeners to carry with them as they navigate their own workplace journeys?
I would say, remember that thriving in the workplace isn't about achieving some mythical state of perfection. It's about embracing the journey with all of its challenges and triumphs and continuously striving to create a work experience that is both fulfilling and meaningful.
It's about finding that sweet spot where we can contribute our unique talents, build meaningful connections, and really feel a sense of purpose in the work we do.
And never underestimate the power of those small steps, those daily choices and actions that, over time can lead to some really significant shifts in our work lives and our overall well-being.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of work. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and some practical tools to create a more fulfilling and successful work experience. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep thriving.